I'm Johnny Price with the Caleb Group here in Greenville, South Carolina, and this is the fourth installment of C.S. Lewis on Heaven. Now, here's the scoop. You and I were created for eternity. There is a statement in the Old Testament, the book of Ecclesiastes. You find the 3rd chapter, the 11th verse, saying, "He has made everything beautiful in its time. He also set eternity in their hearts." C.S. Lewis speaks of this sense of eternity and its longing, and how it offers some important clues. In his book, Mere Christianity, he writes this: "The Christian says, creatures are not born with desires unless satisfaction for those desires exists. A baby feels hunger, well, there is such a thing as food. A duckling wants to swim, well, there is such a thing as water. Men feel sexual desire, well, there is such a thing as sex. If I find in myself a desire which no experience in this world can satisfy, the most probable explanation is that I was made for another world. If none of my earthly pleasures satisfy it, that does not prove that the universe is a fraud. Probably earthly pleasures were never meant to satisfy it, but only to arouse it, to suggest the real thing. If that is so, I must take care, on the one hand, never to despise or to be unthankful for these earthly blessings, and on the other, never to mistake them for the something else of which they are only a kind of copy or echo or mirage. I must keep alive in myself the desire for my true country, which I shall not find till after death. I must never let it get snowed under or turned aside. I must make it the main object of life to press on to that other country and to help others do the same." This sense of eternity that we have, and a longing for it that many of us have, Lewis suggests is a clue. And in The Problem of Pain, he says, "Your soul has a curious shape because it is a hollow made to fit a particular swelling in the infinite contours of the divine substance, or a key to unlock one of the doors in the house of many mansions. For it is not humanity in the abstract that is to be saved, but you, the individual reader, John Stubbs or Janet Smith. Blessed and fortunate creature, your eyes shall behold him and not another's. All that you are, sins apart, is destined, if you will let God have his good way, to utter satisfaction. Your place in heaven will seem to be made for you and you alone, because you were made for it. Made for it stitch by stitch, as a glove is made for a hand." Now, there are those who don't pick up on the fact that we were created to live forever, and they work very hard to establish some sort of immortality for themselves. They want to leave a legacy. They have buildings named after them. They speak of continuing through their children. Much of the longing for fame is what this is all about. And if you're familiar with the theme song of the movie and TV show and play, Fame, there's this line in there that says, "We're going to live forever." Fame. Well, in his spiritual autobiography, Surprised by Joy, C.S. Lewis talks about one such person that he knew. He said, "I had recently come to know an old, dirty, gabbling, tragic Irish parson who had long since lost his faith but retained his living. By the time I met him, his only interest was the search for evidence of human survival. On this he read and talked incessantly, and, having a highly critical mind, could never satisfy himself. What was especially shocking was that the ravenous desire for personal immortality coexisted in him with, apparently, a total indifference to all that could, on a sane view, make immortality desirable. He was not seeking the beatific vision, and did not even believe in God. He was not hoping for more time in which to purge and improve his own personality. He was not dreaming of reunion with dead friends or lovers. I never heard him speak with affection of anybody. All he wanted was the assurance that something he could call himself would, on almost any terms, last longer than his bodily life. Well, Christians, followers of Christ, are able to do much better than that. The Apostle Paul tells us in one of his letters, you'll find this in 2 Corinthians, the 5th chapter, very first part of the chapter. He says, "Now we know that if the earthly tent we live in is destroyed, we have a building from God, an eternal house in heaven, not built by human hands. Meanwhile, we groan, longing to be clothed with our heavenly dwelling." You and I are moving through eternity. Now the question is, what is at stake? And that's what we take up in the next segment of C.S. Lewis on Heaven.